Hi, I'm Lance. Thanks for joining me on the mic. Today I'm talking about my Glarry GT509 acoustic electric guitar. Right off the bat, I want to say that this is all being done with a camera microphone, so please keep that in mind. And so you'll probably hear some traffic going by because I live in a loud place and I've got a fire going in the background. This guitar, I bought it a few weeks ago. It retails for $79.99. I also paid $2.99 for shipping insurance. So for $82.98 US, I got this acoustic electric guitar. They have 4 different finishes. I chose the one they call Sunset, which is kind of a tobacco burst sort of finish. They also had natural and black and blue, I believe, in this particular guitar. Again, this is an acoustic electric here. So, if you listen to that little snippet at the beginning, hopefully you'll get an idea of, again, just how it sounds in the room with a basic microphone. But I'll hit some primary points here really quickly about this guitar. Good things. It has a very big tone, a nice tone for a guitar in this price range. It's a dreadnought size guitar, as you can see, with a cutaway. It just has a pretty balanced sound. You know, it probably sounds a little trebly with the mic only, but it has a pretty good bass. You know, when you play a guitar like this and you play an E chord and it's up against your body, you sort of feel that reverberation. Now, I don't know if the big tone has something to do with it. It's a pretty light guitar, inexpensive and kind of thin wood, and so maybe that has an effect on a bigger sound. You know, I'm not an expert in that. But common sense wise, you know, if you had a 1/2-inch soundboard, it would probably be a little harder to make it reverberate. This rings out really nicely. The action is pretty good right out of the box. That is, the strings aren't very high off the neck. I can fret notes, you know, clear up here. I haven't detected any fret buzz, so that's a positive. The tuners are pretty nice, you know, very basic, nothing fancy to look at, but I haven't had any difficulty as far as resistance to turning, even though the strings were not perfectly wound. So that was a plus. And it plays pretty easily down in the open position chords, and as you saw at the beginning there, I played a couple of bar chords at about the 3rd fret. Forgive me if I make a mistake here and there. But I haven't had any trouble with those, just playing those kind of chords and even bar chords, like I said, up here. And so they advertise it as kind of a beginner guitar, and in that sense I would say, yeah, it's good for that. A first-time player isn't going to, you know, have a super hard time pushing the strings down. And what else do we got here? You know, it looks pretty nice. Other people on YouTube have talked about the appearance. You're not going to get a perfect looking guitar for $79.99. And the back and sides, I don't know, you know, what they would call this wood, but you know, it's just a very basic looking thing with a couple of flaws in the paint and stuff. But from the front it looks okay. And it comes with a pick guard that you can affix yourself, so that's kind of nice, you know, if I decide I want to do that. Other things it came with a strap and a gig bag, and those are both pretty flimsy quality. You know, no padding on the gig bag and pretty thin on the strap, and the strap is also kind of short. Like, I'm about 5'10" and pretty skinny, and I still had to maximize the strap length to get it usable for me, and it still sits pretty high up, which I'm okay with. I'm not one of those, you know, low slung kind of players, but I'm just saying if you're a big guy or gal, the strap might not be big enough for you. But it does include a strap, and as far as the gig bag, it's flimsy, but it'll keep the dust and drizzle off. It's got backpack straps. It also came with a pretty nice capo. This is, you know, a capo like this in this style typically is going to retail for 15 or 20 bucks, I think. It's very easy. So it does the job, included in that price. And it included a tuner, which worked well for a brief period. Either it eats batteries really quickly, or it just died on me. Because the battery it came with, I went through it, and then I put another battery in, and it stopped working. So I don't know if there's a problem with the unit, or if it just sucks a ton of power from the battery quickly. Maybe that's just, maybe I just got a bad one. But it does come with that. Clip it on, and it's a chromatic tuner too. It actually worked pretty well for the short period that it worked. And it does have, you know, electronics with a 3-band EQ, a knob volume, and a presence control, battery check. It came with a battery, and I don't have an amp handy to demonstrate, but I plugged it into my own multi-tracker, and I tested all the controls. Everything works. And so if you consider that, you know, shipped, I got it for $82.98, and I can plug this in and play, that's pretty amazing. In fact, I don't know how they do that, because for that price, you know, they've got to cover the shipping and whatever. Now, for the bad, and really there's only been one negative with this so far, and that is the intonation. This guitar plainly was not set up by you know, an expert. And there are a couple of things. The bridge piece sits really high, and they may have routed the notch for the bridge a little too wide, but the main thing is it's too high, and so it's bending over. Not so much that it's like gonna break, because I've been playing this for a couple of weeks. But in order to deal with that, I'd have to like file it down. And there may need to be some truss rod adjusting as well. Because here's what happens. You know, if you listened, I had pretty good intonation in the open position. But there, you know, it's a little iffy at spots, especially like the B string, which is common to have some trouble with. But check this out. Let me make sure I'm in tune. Please consider that I'm also in a pretty cold house, and so that can affect tuning as temperature's changing or whatever. But that's reasonably well tuned up at E. E major chord. So now I'm up to the 7th with a kind of open B chord, and now it starts to have more intonation problems. I mean, it's still not terrible, but when I get over the octave, I'm having trouble there, as you can probably hear. If I do that with sort of an open A sus2 chord, you know, it's pretty good up to a point, but it definitely needs some adjusting to deal with that kind of issue. And but again, keeping in mind that this was a $79.99 guitar, I could take this out and like go busking with it, and I wouldn't feel like I was humiliated because I didn't know how to tune my guitar, you know, that people would think that. I have had to make frequent tuning adjustments. Now again, part of that maybe is I'm in a cold house. At the beginning, when you first get a guitar, it's a matter of the strings, you know, they got to get some use in them. But I've still had to make adjustments along the way, and so that's not something that you'd be happy with if you'd paid, you know, $300 or $400. But for $79.99, if I have to make some adjustments or whatever, that's fine. And again, I could take it just as it is and go down and start playing some open position. And so to me, what a guitar like this is kind of good for is like if I have a really expensive guitar and I don't want to take it to play at the barn dance or out on the street corner when it's 45 degrees out, it's good for that. As for a beginner guitar, you know, it's good in some ways, but the fact that it would need some work done to it, that could potentially be discouraging for a beginner if they don't realize that. You know, you don't want a guitar when you're first starting out that has intonation problems because you might think it's you. But as long as you know someone who can correct some of that for you and you're willing to spend a few extra bucks, that shouldn't be too big of a deal. And like I said, since the action is pretty good, you don't have to push, feel like your strings are an inch off the fretboard. That's good for beginners. You know, because that can be really discouraging when you're starting out. It's hard enough as it is to develop some calluses. You certainly don't want high action, and so that's not been a problem with this. Like I said, the tuning machines they work well, they're nice. I took one of the little stickers off, but you know, they're just standard basic, but sometimes, you know, you'll have resistance when you're turning, and this has not been a problem with this Glarry. I really feel like for, you know, about $80, I got over $100 in value. That's my honest assessment. I mean, I've bought cheap guitars before. In fact, more frequently I've played cheap guitars than expensive ones, probably, at least over the last few years. And I feel like, you know, if you were spending $130, you'd be coming out okay, because again, you get stuff that you're not going to have to go buy somewhere else. I like to play at the 3rd fret a lot, you know, capoed. And so this is something somewhere else you'd go spend at least 10 to $20 on a capo of this quality. Comes with it. If you get a better tuner than I got, then that's nice as well. Came with an extra set of strings. Came with some picks that are of a weight that I'm not crazy about, but it does come with picks. Basically, it's everything you need right out of the box. You just might have to deal with some setup issues and stuff like that. And in my experience, the Glarry people so far have been pretty cool about that. I think they back everything up. I've been corresponding with one of their people over email, and the person has been just nice, which is good. But I'm keeping the guitar. I have no complaints for the price that I paid. And again, you've got 4 finish options. I may be repeating myself here because this isn't scripted. I'm just sort of talking off the top of my head. But that's a nice big sound. I'm using a pretty thin pick, if that matters. I don't know what I like to use. It's like a 50, I think, 0.5. So this is again the GT509. It's kind of about in the middle of their price range. And so check it out. I'm putting a link in the video description, and maybe I'll play a little more here as I end the video. But if you're on a budget, you need a second guitar, you're just starting out, and again, you're willing to maybe spend a few extra bucks on setup, sure, I'd recommend this for that price. And then if you dig playing guitar, or your financial situation improves, then go knock yourself out with some $300 or $400 guitar, but this is a good starting point. Thanks for joining me on the mic.